A commercial flight vanished from radar in 1955. No wreckage, no distress signal, just gone. Then, in 1992, air traffic controllers claimed they watched that same plane land at an airport. Same model, same flight number. But here's the part that makes zero sense. The passengers hadn't aged a single day. This is one of those stories that sounds completely made up. And maybe it is. But the reason it became so famous is because of how many people reported seeing it happen. And the details were far too specific to ignore. So, let's walk through exactly what supposedly happened. Then we'll separate what's real from what's not. Because this story has layers most people never hear about. It all starts with a routine flight, Pan American Airways Flight 914. The plane was scheduled to fly from New York to Miami on July 2, 1955. It was a Douglas DC-4, a perfectly normal aircraft for that time. There were 57 passengers on board and a crew of 4. The flight took off right on schedule. Weather conditions were clear. Everything seemed fine. The pilot radioed in his position, all normal. Then, halfway through the flight, the plane just vanished. Air traffic control tried contacting the pilot. Nothing. They kept trying for hours. Still no response. Search and rescue teams were dispatched immediately. They scoured the entire route, checked the ocean, islands, and every possible crash site. But they found absolutely nothing. No debris, no oil slicks, no signals. It was like the plane had been erased from existence. This wasn't unheard of in the 1950s. Technology wasn't what it is today. But what made this case strange was how suddenly it happened. 1 second, the plane was there. The next, gone. Families were devastated. The airline launched a full investigation. The U.S. government got involved. They interviewed mechanics, crew, airport staff, anyone connected to the flight. Nothing suspicious. No explanation. Eventually, Flight 914 was declared lost. The passengers were presumed dead. Funerals were held. Life moved on. It became just another aviation mystery from the 1950s, until 37 years later. September 9, 1992. Caracas, Venezuela. The air traffic control tower was having an ordinary day, until suddenly, a plane appeared on radar out of nowhere. No transponder code, no flight plan. It just appeared. Controllers tried contacting it. No answer. Then, finally, the pilot replied, and he sounded confused. He asked where he was, saying he was supposed to be landing in Miami. He had no idea he was in Venezuela. The controllers told him he was far off course and asked for identification. The pilot calmly replied, "Pan American Flight 914. The controllers froze. That flight number didn't exist in their current system. When they looked deeper, they found it. A plane that had disappeared in 1955. At first, they thought it was a prank or a mistake. But the pilot insisted. He said he'd left New York that morning and was just a few hours into his trip. The controllers could see the plane now, circling the airport. They cleared it to land. When the aircraft touched down, the ground crew rushed to meet it. They expected to see an old movie prop or a vintage collector's stunt. But the closer they got, the stranger it seemed. The plane looked like it had just come out of 1955, perfectly preserved, polished, spotless. The door opened, the crew and passengers stepped out, and everything about them screamed mid-century. Their clothes, hairstyles, even their accents. They were confused, asking what year it was. When told it was 1992, they thought it was a prank One passenger pulled out a newspaper from that morning, July 2nd, 1955, still crisp and white. No yellowing, no age. The airport staff were stunned. Authorities were called. Police and government officials surrounded the plane. Cameras came out. But then something even stranger happened. According to reports, the pilot suddenly panicked. He ran back onto the plane, started the engines, and before anyone could stop him, took off. The plane lifted into the air, climbed into the clouds, and vanished. Gone again. The story goes that some passengers who had already stepped off began to age rapidly. Within hours, they looked decades older. Within days, several reportedly died of old age. Those who survived were in shock, unable to comprehend what had happened. That's the legend as it's been told and retold for decades. It's appeared in magazines, TV shows, and later on the internet. People believed it, or at least wanted to. But now, we have to talk about the truth. Because this story, as incredible as it sounds, has major problems. There's no official record of Pan American Flight 914 ever existing. Pan Am kept detailed logs. No flight by that number ever departed from New York or vanished in 1955. No missing persons. No news articles from that time. Nothing. The Caracas airport has no record of any such landing in 1992. No flight logs, no photos, no witnesses on record. And if a 1950s plane had really landed out of nowhere, it would have been global news. It wasn't. So where did the story come from? The earliest known version appeared in a sensational tabloid, the kind that also ran headlines about aliens and Bigfoot. Each time the story was retold, new details were added. The Venezuelan airport, the aging passengers, the pilot's reappearance, but never a shred of verified evidence. It's likely a case of fiction being mistaken for fact. Maybe it began as a creative what-if story about time travel. Someone read it, thought it was real, and spread it as news. Once it hit the internet, it went viral, because it's just that compelling. But here's what it really teaches us. Just because a story is detailed doesn't mean it's true. Just because multiple outlets report something doesn't make it real, especially when they all trace back to one unverified source. The Flight 914 story has all the hallmarks of an urban legend. Vivid specifics, no evidence, no witnesses, and a plot that perfectly fits our fascination with mystery and the unexplained. Does that mean time travel is impossible? Not necessarily. Scientists have theorized ways it could work, through wormholes or relativity, but not through commercial aircraft accidentally skipping decades. And does it mean all plane mysteries are fake? Absolutely not. There are real ones, like Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, which vanished in 2014 despite modern tracking. That's a genuine, documented mystery. The difference is evidence. Flight 914 has none. So what really happened? The simplest answer, it never did. There was no Flight 914. The story was made up, either as fiction or as a hoax, and the world just never stopped repeating it. But that doesn't make it meaningless. It shows how myths spread, how much we want to believe the impossible, and how stories, even false ones, can capture our imagination for generations. The legend of Flight 914 will keep circulating. New people will hear it, share it, and wonder. Some will believe, others will debunk, and the mystery will live on. Because at the end of the day, we love a good mystery, even if it never really happened. Check out the next story. It might just make you question what's possible all over again.